Hey guys, Dev with Crime Hive, back with a new series of episodes. This is going to be focused on notorious serial killer Israelkeys. And so we're going to dig into this story. I'm going to go back and forth some of the other stories as well, but this is really fascinating. Israelkeys, if you guys don't know, is one of the most notorious serial killers out there. And he's constantly been kind of coined as the most meticulous serial killer in American history. So what we're looking at today is what ultimately led to his capture, the mistakes that he made that actually led to his arrest. So if you guys don't know, if you're not familiar, not a lot of people seem to be familiar with Israel. This is what he looks like. A couple pictures here. I like to use graphics just to give you guys a better visual. And we're talking about, so he spanned over the years from around 1997 to about 2012. FBI thinks that he may have murdered as many as 11 people. And his last victim right here is Samantha Koenig. And this murder takes place in Anchorage, Alaska. Now, a couple things here to know about Israel is he was, again, extremely meticulous. He just didn't make mistakes. And what he had a couple rules that he abided by, and one was he never would kill someone in his hometown. He was in Anchorage, and the first mistake that he made was he killed Samantha in Anchorage. So the second thing that he never really looked to do was bury them in the same area as well. So that was another mistake he made, is he killed this person in his hometown and then buried them not too far away from there. So we'll talk about that. So what happens with this story? This is Samantha. She's about 18 years old. She's working here. This is in February of 2012. She's working at this tiny little mobile cafe, and Israel comes in, basically snatches her up, most likely at gunpoint. There were cameras that were kind of showing footage of this, which we can talk about at a later time. And what he does is he takes her back to his shed in his home, and then from there he brutally rapes her, strangles her, and just leaves her in the shed. He actually went on a cruise for about 2 weeks after this, and then he comes back, I believe actually he comes back about 2 weeks later from a cruise, and then what he does is dismembers her body. And then where he dumps the body, so here's Anchorage, he dumps the body at Matanuska Lake, about 41 miles from Anchorage, and she's chopped into pieces. He goes to a parent-teacher conference, I think, later that day. So what you'll learn about Israel is he basically had this double life. He was two people. He absolutely loved killing. He worked at a construction company, owned his own business, had this other life, traveled all over the place. But this mistake that he made was number one, killing in his hometown and then dumping the body nearby. And then two, he actually, what happened, we're going to talk about this here. Before we actually talk into the second mistake, again, if you guys don't know who I am, Dev with Crime Hive, subscribe to my channel. Plenty more videos. We've got a lot of different things to cover on serial killers and other crime cases, true crime cases. And getting back into this, though, what Israel would commonly do, he was very intelligent, very smart. He would commonly fly from Anchorage, for example. It would be a one-way ticket. He'd go, and this is just an example, he'd go to, let's say it was Boston. He'd go to Boston, and then he would take a rental car, and he would drive the rental car to Vermont, let's say. He actually did kill a couple in Vermont. We'll talk about that in a later video. He would kill the couple in Vermont, and then he would drive to a whole other area again, maybe Kentucky. And then from there, it would be a one-way ticket back to Alaska. So he was very methodical in this planning, but FBI profilers couldn't really develop a profile on him because he didn't have a type of victim. He just killed people at random, which made it so much more difficult for investigators to find him and really understand who this person is. He just didn't meet the core profile of a serial killer that they could identify. They couldn't figure out who he was. So ultimately what happened is he got arrested in Texas, and we're going to talk about how that was. But what I want to talk about first is this interesting fact about him. He was so strategic that he would get these Home Depot barrels of evidence. He called them kill kits. They were little caches of equipment and tools, things that he would use to murder people and dispose of their bodies. These things contained like ammo and guns and money, Drano, things like that. And he would strategically bury these little kill kits all over the nation, come back to him later and use them when he was on his little murder spree. It wasn't really a spree. I mean, he was very methodical on this. So just a crazy thing that I wanted to point out. But ultimately, like I said, he was arrested, and of all places, he was arrested here in Lufkin, Texas, if anybody knows where that's at. On this map here, you've got Houston right here, you've got Dallas, Fort Worth, so it's just in this vicinity. And what he did was he used one of Samantha's ATM cards, and he was trying to get money from this card, withdraw money from this card. Well, he was in a rental car, and a camera actually took a picture of his license plate from the rental vehicle. So that rental vehicle was linked to his name. Investigators were able to track him down that way, and that's how they arrested him in Texas. So that's what led to his capture, those big mistakes right there. There is far more that we're going to talk about with this case. Just wanted to open up with that segment, and we're going to get into more about his victims and where these crimes took place. And then last, just to leave you guys on one other note, he didn't just murder people. This guy was all over the place. He robbed banks. He burglarized. He was a thief. He sexually assaulted women. I mean, he was just all over the map when it came to crime, and it's just a crazy, fascinating story. And I think you guys will really enjoy some of these upcoming segments. Again, this is Dev with Crime Hive. Subscribe to my channel if you like it. We're going to have more videos. You guys take care.